But history has proven again and again, the small, invisible actions are the foundation of everything extraordinary. Take, for example, the story of Walt Disney. Today, his name shines brighter than almost any in the world of imagination. But in the early years, Walt Disney was broke, rejected, and laughed at. He was told he wasn't creative enough, that his ideas were foolish, that his vision was too unrealistic. He failed so many times he ended up living in his office because he couldn't afford rent. And yet, every day, he laid another stone. He kept sketching characters. He kept telling stories. He kept pitching ideas. When he lost the rights to his first creation, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, many would have quit. But that loss became the stone that gave birth to Mickey Mouse, a character that would transform entertainment forever. You see, Disney wasn't waiting for the perfect deal, the perfect investor, or the perfect moment. He simply kept laying stones, one by one, until they formed a kingdom of imagination, and the world calls it Disneyland. That's the power of the first stone. It doesn't look like much. It doesn't feel like much. But years later, it stands as a monument. Now bring this closer to your life. You say you want to be in better shape, but do you really need to run 10 miles today? You need to put on your shoes and walk around the block. That's the stone. You say you want to build a business, but do you really need investors in a grand office today? No. You need to write down the idea, make the call, create the first version. That's the stone. You say you want to write a book, but do you need a publisher and a contract today? No. You need to write the first page. That's the stone. Do you see the pattern? Success does not demand everything at once. It only demands one thing, one stone, one decision, one habit at a time. Let me take you deeper into the life of Thomas Edison. Imagine his lab late at night, the lamps flickering, papers scattered, his assistants exhausted, wanting to give up. The experiment has failed again, and again, and again. The glass shatters, the filament burns out, the material disintegrates. Each attempt is a wall rising higher, blocking the path forward. Most people would stop. Most people would say, enough. But Edison smiled. He told his assistants, we haven't failed. We now know thousands of things that won't work. We're closer than ever. And then he picked up the tools, placed another stone, and tried again. That's the mindset of persistence. To the world, failure looks like the end. To persistence, failure looks like the quarry, where more stones can be gathered. Edison didn't need the perfect filament on day one. He only needed the courage to try again. That was the stone. Think of Abraham Lincoln once more. When he lost another election, people mocked him. They said, why don't you give up? Clearly, you're not meant for politics. But Lincoln understood a truth few understand. Every loss was a stone. Every rejection was a stone. Every failure, painful as it was, added weight to the foundation of his character. By the time he became president, he was a man forged by loss, a man the storms of history could not break. And that is why the first stone matters so much, not because of what it is, but because of what it begins. Let's step back to the workers on the Great Wall. One man places a stone. What does he see? Almost nothing, just a piece of rock in the dirt. Another man places a stone beside it. Still, almost nothing. But then hundreds of men place hundreds of stones, then thousands, then tens of thousands. Days turn into years, years turn into generations, and slowly the wall begins to rise. It cuts across mountains, it stretches into deserts. It becomes something so massive, so powerful, that centuries later it still stands as a wonder of the world. Now think about your habits. The first workout doesn't transform your body. The first dollar saved doesn't make you rich. The first page doesn't finish the book. But just like those stones, one becomes two, two become 10, 10 become 100, and suddenly where there was nothing, there is something. Where there was weakness, there is strength. Where there was fear, there is confidence. Where there was failure, there is success. The question is, will you lay that first stone? Because here's the truth most people don't want to admit. The first stone is always waiting. It waits for you each morning when the alarm goes off. It waits for you each night when you decide between wasting time or working on your dream. It waits for you every time you're tempted to quit. The stone doesn't disappear. It's there, in your hands, waiting for you to place it. And the longer you wait, the heavier it feels. The longer you delay, the more impossible it seems. But once you place it, you discover a secret. The wait was an illusion. The hardest part is beginning. Once you begin, the wall starts to rise. So what's your first stone? Maybe it's the courage to say no to distractions. Maybe it's the discipline to wake up earlier. Maybe it's the decision to believe in yourself after years of doubt. Whatever it is, place it. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for motivation. Place the stone today, because the wall of your destiny is waiting to be built. It is one of the rarest powers a human being can hold, the ability to see further than their own years, to believe in something so deeply that they are willing to lay down stones they will never walk upon, to build foundations for a future they may never see. When we look at the Great Wall of China today, we see an unbroken monument stretching across mountains, deserts, and valleys. But the truth is, no single emperor, no single builder, no single generation ever saw the wall finished. The men who carried stones up those slopes knew they would die long before the wall was complete. They weren't building for themselves. They were building for a vision larger than their own lifetimes. That is the essence of greatness. To live not just for what you can touch today, but for what your children and their children and strangers centuries from now might benefit from. To dare to plant seeds in soil where you will never sit in the shade. And this is where most people falter, because our world has trained us to think small, to live short, to measure life in minutes and weeks instead of decades and centuries. We are told to chase instant gratification, quick rewards, the applause of today. But if you want to build something that lasts, something that stands like the Great Wall, your vision must stretch beyond the horizon of your own life. Think of Henry Ford. At the turn of the 20th century, cars were toys for the rich. They were fragile, expensive machines, inaccessible to the common man. But Ford had a vision, not of building cars for the wealthy, but of putting a car in every household, of giving ordinary families the freedom of the open road. At the time, that vision was madness. Factories were not built for such scale. Roads were not ready for such traffic. The world itself seemed unprepared. But Ford wasn't thinking about the world as it was. He was thinking about the world as it could be. And so he built. Piece by piece, innovation by innovation, he refined the assembly line. He drove down costs. He raised wages for his workers so they could afford the very cars they built. He laid down the stones of a new future. And though Ford himself has long since passed, his vision remains alive. Every time you step into a car, you are stepping into his dream. He never met you. He never shook your hand. And yet his vision touches your daily life. That is vision beyond a lifetime. Or take the story of Walt Disney. Before there was a castle, before there was a kingdom, there was only a man with a pencil, a stack of rejection letters, and more debt than he could count. He had gone bankrupt. He had been betrayed. He had been told more than once that he wasn't creative enough to succeed. Imagine that. The man who would eventually reshape imagination itself, told he had no imagination. But Walt Disney saw beyond the moment. He saw beyond the bankruptcy, beyond the rejection, beyond the laughter of critics. He saw a world where families could walk into a place of pure magic, where stories could come to life, where dreams could become real. And though he didn't live to see Walt Disney World completed, his vision outlived him. It was so powerful, so unshakable, that others carried it forward after his death. Today, millions of people walk through the gates of that kingdom, smiling, laughing, creating memories, all because one man saw further than his own lifetime. This is what I want you to understand. Vision is not about what you can see in front of you. Vision is about what you can see beyond you. Most people live only for today. They make decisions based only on comfort, on convenience, on what feels good right now. They chase quick wins and instant rewards, and then they wonder why their lives lack depth, why their work fades quickly, why their name is forgotten when they are gone. The truth is, if you live only for today, you will build nothing that lasts tomorrow. But those who build walls that stand centuries, they think differently. They dream differently. They ask themselves, what can I create that will outlast me? What stone can I lay that future generations will thank me for? Look again at the Great Wall. The men who died building it never saw the whole picture, but their vision was carried forward, generation after generation, until a wall unlike anything else on earth stretched across the land. That is the power of vision beyond a lifetime. And here's the lesson for you. The same power is in your hands. You may not be building a wall of stone, but you are building something every day, a reputation, a family, a legacy, a life. The question is, are you building for now, or are you building for forever? Consider Andrew Carnegie. He began as a poor boy working in steel mills, laboring in brutal conditions. His hands blistered, his back aching. But Carnegie had a vision not only of building wealth for himself, but of creating opportunities for others. By the end of his life, he had built libraries across America, giving millions of people access to knowledge. He said, a man who dies rich dies disgraced. His vision was not just about what he could gather in his lifetime, but what he could give beyond it. Today, long after his death, people still walk into Carnegie libraries, still learn, still grow, because his vision outlasted him. Think also of Nikola Tesla, a man often ridiculed, often broke, often misunderstood. He died with little money, in relative obscurity. But Tesla's vision of electricity, of wireless communication, of a world powered by invisible forces, that vision has shaped the very world you live in today. He did not live to see the internet, or smartphones, or satellites, but his fingerprints are on every one of them. That is vision beyond a lifetime. So let me ask you, what are you building? What is the vision you hold that may not be finished in your lifetime, but could bless generations to come? Because here is the truth. The most powerful visions are not meant to be completed in one lifetime. The Great Wall wasn't. The pyramids weren't. The cathedrals of Europe weren't. They were built by people who understood that their work was only one part of a much larger story. And that is how you must think about your own life. Maybe your vision is to break a cycle of poverty in your family. Maybe your vision is to create a business that provides opportunities long after you're gone. Maybe your vision is to write words that will inspire people decades from now. Whatever it is, do not be discouraged if you can't see it completed. Build anyway. Lay the stones anyway. For even if your hands cannot finish it, your vision can live on. The tragedy is not to die before the work is done. The tragedy is to die having never started. So start. Dream bigger than your own life. See further than your own years. Build something that will outlast you. Because vision beyond a lifetime is the only kind of vision that truly matters. Vision beyond a lifetime is not just about what you build. It is about what you believe. It is about holding on to a dream so large that even when the world doubts you, even when your own eyes cannot see the finish line, you keep moving forward, stone after stone. Think of Michelangelo. When he began sculpting David, he was handed a massive block of marble, cracked, flawed, abandoned by other sculptors who believed nothing could be made of it. For years it sat unused, considered worthless. But Michelangelo saw what others could not. He said, "I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free." That statue took years, endless days of chiseling, endless nights of planning. He knew he would never live forever, but his vision was not about his own lifetime. It was about creating something that would outlast him. And today, centuries later, David still stands, a masterpiece admired by millions. Michelangelo is gone, but his vision lives on. This is the power of vision, to look at raw stone and see an angel, to look at failure and see a future, to look at your life as it is now, and see what it can become long after you are gone. Leonardo da Vinci understood this too. Many of his notebooks were filled with inventions that would never be built in his lifetime. Flying machines, submarines, mechanical devices. People laughed at his sketches, dismissed them as fantasies. And yet, centuries later, many of those ideas became reality. The airplanes above you, the submarines under the sea, the technology that drives the modern world. Da Vinci's fingerprints are there. His vision was larger than his own life. And then there was Martin Luther King Jr. His vision was not for himself, but for a world he knew he might never see. He stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and declared, "I have a dream." That dream was not just for his own children, but for generations yet unborn. He knew the cost, he knew the dangers, and indeed he did not live to see the full fruit of his vision. But his dream continues to shape nations, continues to inspire hearts, continues to march forward long after his voice was silenced. That is vision beyond a lifetime. The Great Wall, Ford, Disney, Carnegie, Tesla, Michelangelo, Da Vinci, King, what do they all share? They dared to see further than themselves. They understood a truth too many ignore. If your vision dies with you, it was too small. And now the question comes back to you. What is your vision? Not just your goal for next week, not just your ambition for the next year, but your vision for a lifetime and beyond. What will you leave behind? Maybe it's the book you've been postponing. Maybe it's the business you've been dreaming of. Maybe it's the family values you instill in your children. Maybe it's the wisdom you leave in your community. These are not just tasks. These are stones. And each stone laid with persistence becomes part of a wall that stands for generations. Think of Steve Jobs, fired from the very company he created, humiliated, cast aside. He could have disappeared. He could have quit. But Jobs had a vision that went beyond a job title, beyond a company name. He believed in technology as a tool to empower individuals, to connect humanity, to change the way people create. He returned to Apple years later, and though he is no longer here, his vision remains alive in the devices you carry, in the way the world communicates, in the culture of innovation that continues long after his death. Jobs didn't live forever, but his vision did. And here is the truth. You don't need to be Ford or Disney or Jobs to carry a vision beyond your lifetime. You don't need millions of dollars or a global company. You only need persistence and faith. A parent who teaches discipline to a child is carrying a vision beyond a lifetime. A teacher who inspires a student plants seeds that will grow long after the classroom is gone. A writer who publishes words may never meet the readers whose lives are transformed decades later. That is how vision works. So don't underestimate your role. Don't underestimate your dream. Don't underestimate the power of one stone laid in faith. Because vision beyond a lifetime is not about ego. It is not about monuments to yourself. It is about service. It is about building something that others will stand upon. The workers on the Great Wall did not carve their names into every stone. Most of their names are lost to history, but their work remains. Their sacrifice remains. Their vision remains. And that's the paradox of greatness. The more selfless your vision, the longer it lasts. If you build only for yourself, your work dies with you. If you build only for yourself, your work dies with you. So again, I ask you, what wall are you building? What stones are you laying that may never be celebrated in your lifetime, but will matter long after you're gone? Don't be afraid if the vision feels too big. Don't be afraid if it stretches beyond what you can achieve alone. That's how you know it's real. The Great Wall was not built by one emperor, one builder, or one lifetime. It was carried across centuries because the vision was greater than the man who started it. Maybe your vision is to break cycles of fear in your family, to teach courage where there was once silence. Maybe your vision is to create art that speaks truth long after you are gone. Maybe your vision is to build a business, not just for profit, but to feed families for generations. Whatever it is, don't shrink it to fit your lifetime. Expand your lifetime to serve the vision. And when you doubt, remember this: you are not meant to finish everything you begin. You are meant to begin what others can finish. You are meant to lay stones that someone else can build upon. You are meant to carry a torch that future generations will carry further. The men who built the Great Wall never saw it finished. But today the world sees it, stands upon it, marvels at it. That is the reward of vision beyond a lifetime. So dream bigger, live deeper, build stronger. Lay the stones that will outlast you. Because when your life is over, the question will not be, what did you take, but what did you leave? And if you can answer that with courage, with clarity, with faith, then your vision will live forever. Obstacles, stones, and blood. The Great Wall of China was not built in peace. It was not a gentle work of art crafted in calm workshops. It was raised under the harshest of suns, in the bitterest of winters, across jagged mountains where the air thinned and hope was fragile. It was built with sweat that soaked into the soil, with hands blistered and backs bent. It was built with failure, walls crumbling under storms, sections collapsing under their own weight, plans that had to be started over again. And yes, it was built with blood, because countless workers gave their lives so that the wall could stand. When you look at the Great Wall today, it is easy to admire its grandeur, its might, its beauty against the horizon. But you must not forget the truth. Behind every stone is a story of sacrifice. Behind every stretch of wall is the echo of struggle. Behind every monument of history is the price of persistence. And so it is with your life. Nothing of true value will be built in comfort. Nothing of lasting greatness will be achieved without obstacles. Every setback, every failure, every scar, these are the stones you must lift if you want your wall to stand. But here is the secret. The obstacle is not the enemy. The obstacle is the teacher. The obstacle is the stone itself. Without it, there is nothing to build with. Consider Andrew Carnegie. He was not born into wealth. He was not handed a silver spoon or a golden ladder to climb. He was born in Scotland to a poor weaver. His family immigrated to America, desperate for survival, and young Carnegie found himself working in cotton factories at the age of 13. Imagine that, a boy with no wealth, no status, no powerful connections, laboring in brutal conditions, his tiny frame bent under the weight of machines. The air was thick with dust, his hands raw, his body weary. For many, that would have been the end of the story. That would have been the wall too high to climb. But Carnegie did not see the factory as a prison. He saw it as his quarry. Every hardship was a stone to be lifted. Every blister was a lesson. He read books borrowed from a kind man in his town, stealing moments of education after endless hours of work. He studied, he learned, he persisted. Step by step, job by job, he rose. He became a telegraph messenger, then an assistant, then an investor. He saw opportunities where others only saw obstacles. And eventually he built an empire in steel, the very material that would construct the bones of a growing nation. But here is the part most forget. It was not the steel that made Carnegie great. It was the struggle. It was the factory floors. It was the sweat and the scars. Those were the stones he carried, and without them, his wall would never have risen. Now let's look at another man, Nikola Tesla. If Carnegie's story was forged in fire and steel, Tesla's was forged in ridicule and rejection. He was a man ahead of his time, so far ahead that the world could not see what he saw. He dreamed of harnessing the invisible power of electricity, of lighting up cities without flame, of transmitting energy through the air itself. His mind was a storm of ideas, visions of a future no one else dared imagine. But the world laughed, investors mocked him, rivals slandered him, newspapers ridiculed his inventions as delusions. He lived much of his life in poverty, often skipping meals to afford his experiments. He poured everything into his vision, only to watch others take credit, or to see the world choose the safer path of his rival, Thomas Edison. Imagine the loneliness of that, to hold a vision so clear in your mind and yet be treated as a fool by the very world you're trying to bless. And yet Tesla did not stop. He kept building. He kept experimenting. He kept pushing forward. Though he died nearly forgotten, his fingerprints are everywhere in the modern world. Alternating current, radio waves, wireless transmission, all born of his persistence through ridicule. Tesla reminds us that sometimes the blood you spill is not on your skin, but in your heart. The pain of rejection, the wound of being misunderstood. But even that blood, even that sacrifice is part of the wall. So let us speak plainly. Obstacles are not interruptions to your journey. They are the journey. Failure is not proof you are unworthy. It is proof you are trying. The blood you shed, whether in sweat, tears, or sacrifice, is not wasted. It becomes the mortar that holds your wall together. Think of the workers who carried stones for the Great Wall. Many died along the way, never seeing the final result. And yet, without their sacrifice, without their blood, the wall would not stand today. In the same way, every hardship you endure becomes part of the monument you are building. But here is where most people falter. They believe that obstacles mean they are going the wrong way. They believe that if the path is hard, it must not be meant for them. And so they quit. They set down the stone. They walk away from the wall. But greatness belongs to those who see obstacles not as signs to stop, but as proof that they are building something worth fighting for. The wall is not meant to be easy. If it were, it would not stand for centuries. If your dream were easy, it would not matter. Let's bring this closer to your life. Maybe your obstacle is financial. You are buried in debt, struggling to make ends meet. That is your stone. Lift it. Learn discipline. Learn sacrifice. Build slowly, persistently. Every dollar saved, every small victory is part of your wall. Maybe your obstacle is health, your body weak, your energy low, your habits broken. That is your stone. Lift it. Begin with one step, one workout, one choice. Sweat, fail, struggle, but keep going. The sweat is not punishment. It is proof of progress. Maybe your obstacle is doubt, the voices of others mocking you, telling you your dream is foolish. That is your stone. Lift it. Let their doubt fuel your fire. Let their laughter become the soundtrack of your persistence. For one day, when the wall is complete, their laughter will turn into silence and their doubt into respect. Every obstacle is a stone. Every failure is a stone. Every drop of blood is a stone. And when you gather them all, when you keep lifting even when your hands shake and your back aches, you will look up one day and see what you have built. A wall no storm can destroy. A wall no enemy can tear down. A wall that stands as proof of your persistence. Carnegie's steel was forged in sweat. Tesla's vision was forged in ridicule. The Great Wall was forged in blood. And your destiny will be forged in the obstacles you refuse to surrender to. So lift the stone, wipe the blood, carry the burden, because the wall of your future is waiting, and it will not build itself. If we are honest, the world has always belonged to those who could bleed without breaking. To those who understood that sweat was not punishment, but preparation. To those who carried stones heavier than their own strength, because they knew each stone carried them closer to something unshakable. Think of Thomas Edison again. Not just the countless experiments with the light bulb, but the night his laboratory caught fire. Years of work, ideas, prototypes, all gone in flames that lit up the sky. His life's efforts reduced to ashes before his eyes. His son, heartbroken, expected to see him collapse in despair. But Edison didn't cry, didn't curse, didn't surrender. He simply looked at the fire and said, "Go get your mother. She'll never see a fire like this again." The next morning, he was back at work. No bitterness, no paralysis. Just the quiet determination to rebuild. He treated the fire not as an end, but as a reset, an obstacle that cleared the ground for even greater creations. That is what it means to use blood and ashes as building materials for your wall. Or consider Abraham Lincoln. History remembers his speeches, his leadership, his emancipation. But behind the legend was a man who faced crippling depression, who buried 2 sons, who carried the crushing weight of rejection after rejection. He failed in business. He lost elections. He was mocked as awkward, unqualified, unfit. And in the silence of his private life, he wrestled with darkness so deep he once admitted he was the most miserable man living. Yet even in the depth of despair, he lifted stones. He studied law by candlelight. He practiced speeches alone until his words carried the weight of thunder. He endured loss after loss until persistence itself carved him into the kind of man who could hold a nation together in its darkest hour. His blood was not only on battlefields, it was in his tears, in his loneliness, in his silent fight against the weight of his own mind. And yet he carried those stones. That is why his wall still stands in the memory of nations. Now let us step into the world of athletes. Michael Jordan, perhaps the most celebrated basketball player of all time, was cut from his high school varsity team. Imagine the humiliation, the sting of rejection, the voice whispering, "Maybe you're not good enough." But instead of giving up, Jordan transformed the insult into fuel. He trained harder, pushed further, sweated longer. Every drop of sweat was a stone, every loss a lesson, every failure a spark. Years later, when he stood at the peak of the sport, his wall was not built of talent alone. It was built of rejection turned into relentless discipline. Or think of Serena Williams. From Compton to the courts of Wimbledon, she faced obstacles that went far beyond the net. She was doubted, judged, criticized, often treated as an outsider in a sport that wasn't ready for her power. But she endured the ridicule, the injuries, the sacrifices. She lifted stone after stone, brutal training sessions, grueling comebacks, setbacks that would have broken anyone else. And when she held the trophies, when she rewrote the record books, Every stone she had carried became part of the monument that bore her name. But what about you? What about the stones you are carrying? You may not face factory floors like Carnegie, ridicule like Tesla, fires like Edison, or rejections like Lincoln. But you face your own battlefield, your own sweat, your own blood, the moments when you are tempted to stop because it feels like you can't go any further. This is where the wall tests you. Not in the beginning when the stones are light, not at the end when the wall stands tall, but in the middle when the stones feel endless and the dream feels far away. That is when most people quit. That is when most people say, this is too much, this is impossible, this is not worth it. But hear this truth. The wall is only built by those who keep going in the middle. The blood you shed in the middle is the blood that binds the wall together. The sweat you pour in the middle is the mortar that seals it. The persistence in the middle is what separates monuments from ruins. And there is one more lesson to remember. Obstacles are not evenly distributed. Some people will carry heavier stones than others. Some will bleed more, sweat more, suffer more. Life is not fair. But greatness is not built on fairness. It is built on persistence. You do not get to choose your stones, but you do get to choose whether or not you lift them. The workers of the Great Wall did not choose their mountains. They did not choose the heat or the cold, but they chose to carry their stones anyway. And that choice is why the wall still stands. So what is your mountain? What is the stone in your hands right now? It might be the weight of responsibility for your family. It might be the burden of starting over after failure. It might be the ache of chasing a dream when nobody believes in you. That is your stone. Lift it. Because here is the promise. Every stone you lift brings you closer to a wall that will outlast your struggle. Every drop of sweat, every tear, every scar, it all becomes part of the monument. You may not see it now. You may feel like you are only carrying pain. But one day you will look back and realize the pain was never wasted. It was building something permanent. Carnegie's mills, Tesla's ridicule, Edison's fire, Lincoln's despair, Jordan's rejection, Serena's fight, all stones, all blood, all obstacles, and yet all part of a wall that the world cannot forget. So remember this truth. The obstacle is the stone, the blood is the mortar, the sweat is the price, and persistence is the hand that builds. Lift it, carry it, place it, and keep going, because the wall of your destiny will not rise by itself. Doubt is a shadow that stretches longer than any wall. It doesn't have to be real brick or stone. It only has to live inside your mind. And once it settles, it grows. It grows until it blocks out the sun, until the dream that once lit your heart suddenly feels cold, hidden, unreachable. We have all stood in that shadow. The moment you start something new, the moment you dare to dream bigger, doubt is waiting. It whispers, who are you to think you can do this? Who are you to climb this wall? Who are you to believe your life can be different? And for most people, that whisper is enough. Most people quit, not because the wall is too high, but because they believe the whisper. They look at the shadow and convince themselves the sun is gone. They turn back before they even touch the stone. The Great Wall of China is not only a monument to persistence, it is also a monument to the thousands who never saw it through, who gave up, who doubted. And if we are honest, we have all been that worker. We have all dropped our stone in exhaustion and wondered if it mattered at all. Doubt is heavier than any stone. You can carry weight on your back, you can sweat in the sun, you can push through pain, but when doubt seeps into your mind, it makes the stone feel twice as heavy. That's why so many people quit, not because they lack strength in their body, but because they surrendered strength in their mind. Abraham Lincoln knew this battle well. He carried within him what today would be called clinical depression. At times, the darkness was so overwhelming that friends hid sharp objects from him, afraid of what he might do in despair. He faced defeat after defeat, lost jobs, lost elections, lost loved ones. By any measure, his life was marked more by failure than success. The doubts must have screamed at him, you are not enough, you are not worthy, you are not capable, and yet he carried his stone. Slowly, painfully, with no guarantee of victory, he carried it. And when history needed a leader strong enough to hold a fractured nation together, it was Lincoln, the man who wrestled with doubt in silence, who stood tall. His victory was not the absence of doubt. His victory was persistence in spite of it. That is the truth most people miss. Doubt never goes away. You don't erase it. You don't wake up one morning and find the cloud gone forever. Doubt remains. But you can keep walking in the shadow. You can keep building, even when the sun is hidden. And yet today, doubt has taken on a new shape. In Lincoln's time, doubt came from failure, from rejection, from inner darkness. In our time, doubt is magnified by the glowing screens in our pockets. Every day you open your phone and you are reminded of the wall, not the wall you are building, but the walls other people seem to have already built. The perfect careers, the perfect bodies, the perfect relationships, the perfect lives. And in seconds, doubt creeps in. They are ahead of me. I'm too late. I'm too far behind. Why should I even try? Social media has turned comparison into a constant companion. You don't just doubt your dream, you doubt yourself. Because while you are carrying stones in sweat and silence, others appear to be standing on top of castles, smiling, celebrating, complete. But here is the truth you must not forget. You are comparing your building process to someone else's highlight reel. You are standing in the mud of your construction site and envying the polished marble of a finished palace. Of course it feels unfair. Of course it feels heavy. But every wall, no matter how beautiful, once stood where you stand, half-built, dirty, uncertain. The danger of doubt in the modern age is not just quitting. It is distraction. Doubt makes you believe the shortcut is safer. Doubt makes you chase instant gratification instead of long-term growth. Doubt convinces you that if success doesn't come quickly, it will never come at all. And so instead of laying stones for years, most people lay a stone for a week and quit. Then they lay another stone somewhere else and quit again. They never finish a wall because they are too busy starting over. Every time doubt whispers, this isn't working. But the Great Wall was not built in a week. It was not built with shortcuts. It was built with persistence, generation after generation, stone after stone. And so it must be with you. When doubt comes, and it will, you must keep laying stones. Even if the wall looks endless, even if the shadow hides the sun, even if the world around you looks like it is moving faster, you must lay your stone today, and again tomorrow, and again the day after. Because the only cure for doubt is action. Not thought, not waiting, not hoping. Action. Every time you lay a stone, no matter how small, you prove to yourself that the wall is possible. You prove to yourself that doubt is a liar. Look at the stories of greatness. Lincoln's depression, Edison's failures, Carnegie's poverty, Tesla's ridicule, Disney's bankruptcy, Ford's bankruptcies. Each one of them stood in the shadow of doubt. Each one of them heard the whispers telling them to quit. And yet each one of them laid their stones anyway. And that is why we remember them. So the next time doubt clouds your mind, remember, you are not alone in the shadow. The greatest men and women who ever lived have stood where you stand. They carried stones in darkness too, and they built anyway. The dark cloud of doubt will never disappear completely, but if you persist long enough, if you keep carrying stones through the shadow, there comes a moment when the wall begins to rise above the cloud, the sun breaks through, and you see what was possible all along. So don't run from the shadow, don't surrender to the whisper. Carry your stone, lay it down, and keep going, because doubt is only a cloud. It cannot stop the sun. If persistence is the act of carrying the stone, then discipline is the mortar that holds the stones together. Without discipline, your wall will rise for a moment, but it will not last. Without discipline, your wall will collapse under its own weight. Think of the Great Wall of China. It was not just piles of rock. Piles of rock could never last for centuries. What held those stones in place was mortar, a mixture of lime, water, sticky rice, even unusual ingredients that bound stone to stone so tightly that invaders could not break through. Mortar made the wall more than a collection of rocks. Mortar made it a fortress. And in life, discipline is your mortar. You can have big dreams, you can work hard for a season, you can get inspired by a speech, by a book, by a moment of passion. But if you do not have discipline, it will not hold. You will fall into the same cycle. Start strong, quit early. Dream big but finish small. And all your efforts will crumble like loose stones in the rain. Discipline is unglamorous. Nobody claps when you wake up early. Nobody celebrates when you say no to distractions. Nobody sees the hours you spend practicing, rehearsing, studying, preparing. That is why most people neglect it. They chase the excitement of the stone laying, but they ignore the quiet mortar of discipline. And yet discipline is what makes walls stand for centuries. Consider Henry Ford. Before he became a titan of industry, before the Model T transformed transportation forever, Ford was just another young man obsessed with machines. He failed twice in business. Investors lost faith in him. He was called reckless, unrealistic. But Ford had one thing that separated him: discipline. He studied engines when others slept. He broke down machines and rebuilt them until every piece was clear in his mind. He did not drift with distractions. He lived inside his vision. When the Model T finally rolled out, it was not the product of luck. It was not the product of a sudden spark. It was the product of years of disciplined practice, patient improvement, relentless refinement. The world saw the car and thought, genius. What they didn't see was the mortar, the discipline that bound every small effort together until the wall was unshakable. Discipline is the difference between a fleeting flame and an eternal fire. Walt Disney knew this too. After his bankruptcy, after being told his ideas were foolish, after losing rights to his first cartoon character, he could have quit. Many did. But Disney had the discipline to keep sketching, keep planning, keep dreaming with action. Even when his studio was on the edge of collapse, he worked relentlessly, sharpening his craft, building his vision piece by piece. And because of that discipline, when opportunity finally came, he was ready. His wall did not fall apart in the rain. His vision was held together by mortar that no storm could break. But let us bring this closer to you. What is the mortar in your life? Discipline is not about punishment. It is not about living like a machine. Discipline is about choosing what you want most over what you want now. Discipline is the art of consistency. It is the quiet decision to keep building even when nobody is watching. Most people fail not because they cannot dream, but because they cannot repeat. They cannot keep doing the same simple things daily without getting bored, distracted, or discouraged. But mastery, true greatness, is born in repetition. Look at athletes. Kobe Bryant, called the Black Mamba, was relentless. Teammates said he would arrive at the gym at 4 a.m., train until sunrise, and then train again later in the day. Not once, not twice, every single day. That was his mortar. It wasn't just talent. It wasn't just love of the game. It was discipline that made his wall unbreakable. Or consider Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian in history. For 5 years straight, he trained every single day without missing one, not even for birthdays, not even for holidays. While others rested, he swam. While others celebrated, he swam. And when the world saw him win gold after gold, they only saw the stones. They didn't see the mortar that made them stick. So ask yourself, what is the mortar of your wall? Do you keep your word to yourself? Do you repeat the small habits daily? Do you resist the temptation to start over every time you grow restless? Discipline is built in small things. The decision to wake up when the alarm rings, not 10 minutes later. The choice to eat for energy, not for comfort. The habit of reading instead of scrolling, of creating instead of consuming, of building instead of drifting. Each choice is a handful of mortar. Invisible at first, unimpressive at first, but over time it makes your wall solid. Over time it makes you unshakable. But discipline is not easy in today's world. The culture around you is built on instant gratification. Apps, ads, entertainment, all designed to give you a quick hit of pleasure, to make you forget the long wall and settle for the short thrill. And the more you indulge, the weaker your mortar becomes. That is why discipline is rebellion. Discipline is swimming upstream in a culture that drowns in distraction. Discipline is saying, I will build slowly, while the world chases quickly. The Great Wall still stands because the builders used mortar stronger than time itself. Your life will only stand if you do the same. The world does not need more dreamers. The world does not need more flashes of passion. The world needs disciplined builders, people who can rise every day and keep laying stones, keep applying mortar until the wall is complete. So remember this truth. Your stones are important, but your mortar is essential. Dreams will crumble without discipline. Effort will fade without discipline. Inspiration will vanish without discipline. Be the builder who uses mortar. Be the dreamer who repeats. Be the one whose wall does not just rise but stands. High upon the great wall, rising above the stones and stretching into the horizon, stood the watchtowers. Silent, unyielding, they were more than structures. They were eyes. They were clarity made solid. While the wall itself was persistence and discipline, the towers were vision. They let the builders and defenders see far beyond their own position, beyond the dust at their feet, beyond the narrowness of the present moment. Clarity is the watchtower of your life. Without it, you are trapped on the ground, staring only at the stone in front of you, never seeing the bigger picture. You may work, you may sweat, you may persist, but without clarity, you do not know where your wall is headed. You lay bricks without direction. You climb without purpose. The builders of the Great Wall understood this. They did not simply lay stones endlessly into the wilderness. They raised towers to see far, towers to measure progress, towers to alert them when enemies approached. Without those towers, the wall would have been blind. And so it is with your life. Without clarity, all your effort is blind. Think about how many people live without watchtowers. They wake up and drift. They work because they must. They scroll because it distracts them. They lay stone after stone with no idea of what wall they are building. At the end, they look back and realize the wall of their life leads nowhere. But when you build your watchtowers, when you climb high into clarity, you see the landscape of your life. You see the horizon. You see what stones matter and what stones can be left behind. Clarity is not just knowing what you want. It is knowing why you want it. The why is the light that burns in the tower, guiding you when fog settles on the ground. Henry Ford had this watchtower. In a world where cars were toys for the wealthy, he climbed high and saw something no one else could see. Ordinary families driving, workers owning cars, a nation connected by roads. While others were blinded by tradition, Ford's clarity stretched beyond his lifetime. His company endured setbacks, bankruptcy, and mockery. But the watchtower of clarity guided him, and eventually the world itself moved in the direction he had already seen. Walt Disney too lived in the watchtower. Bankrupt, doubted, rejected time and time again, he could have stayed low, staring at the dirt of his failures. But Disney lifted his eyes. He saw a kingdom that did not exist yet. He saw children laughing in a place that others called impossible. Even when his first amusement park seemed doomed, Even when finances strangled him, his clarity kept him climbing. Today, long after his death, people walk through the gates of Disney's dream. That is the power of a watchtower. It can see beyond a lifetime. But clarity is not reserved for inventors and visionaries alone. It belongs to you. Without it, you risk building a life that feels heavy but hollow. With it, you build a life that feels demanding but meaningful. Think of clarity as a compass in a storm. The winds may push you, the rain may blind you, but if you hold clarity, you know your direction. You may stumble, but you will not wander. You may slow down, but you will not stop. Even Abraham Lincoln, when buried under the weight of civil war, relied on clarity. His tower was not power for its own sake. It was unity, freedom, the preservation of a nation. That clarity guided him through losses, through criticism, through nights when the nation seemed to bleed to death. Without it, persistence would have been wasted, discipline misdirected. With it, every strike, every speech, every law carved toward his vision. And so you must ask yourself, where are your watchtowers? What clarity guides your days? Do you know why you rise in the morning? Do you know why you suffer, why you fight, why you build? Or are you wandering blind at the base of your wall? Do not confuse goals with clarity. Goals are stones. Clarity is the tower that shows where to lay them. Goals are achieved and replaced. Clarity endures and directs. In this modern world, clarity is under attack. Social media feeds you 1,000 directions, 1,000 voices screaming for your attention. They tempt you with comparisons, with illusions of success, with borrowed dreams, and in the chaos, you lose sight of your own wall. You forget your why. You live in the dust. But when you retreat into your watchtower, when you rise above the noise, you can see again. You can see your wall, your horizon, your future. And from that clarity comes peace, power, persistence. The Great Wall endured because the builders raised their eyes. Your life will endure only if you do the same. Climb your tower. Ask yourself the hard questions. Why am I building? Where is my wall headed? What legacy do I want to leave? And when you know, hold that clarity like a flame in the storm. Because persistence without clarity is wasted. Discipline without clarity is slavery. But persistence and discipline, guided by clarity, that is greatness. Clarity is not just a vision of the future, it is a sharpening of the present. Without clarity, you may work hard, but scatter your energy like arrows shot into the wind. With clarity, every effort becomes deliberate, every strike aimed, every stone placed exactly where it belongs. Steve Jobs understood this. When he returned to Apple after being ousted, the company was drowning in confusion, bloated with too many products, too many directions, too many voices. Jobs climbed the watchtower. He asked, "What is Apple really about?" From that height, he saw clearly simplicity, design, elegance, power in the hands of ordinary people. That clarity cut away distractions. He killed product lines. He said no to almost everything. And from that clarity came the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone. He proved that clarity is not just vision. It is focus so sharp it carves industries in half. Consider Nelson Mandela. Locked away for 27 years, he could have lost clarity. He could have drowned in bitterness, in the narrowness of his cell. But Mandela's watchtower rose even higher than the prison walls. From it, he saw not revenge, but reconciliation. Not hatred, but unity. That clarity gave him power greater than armies. When he walked free, his vision was not consumed by chains, but lifted by purpose. He rebuilt a nation because he had spent decades sharpening his watchtower of clarity. Even Elon Musk, controversial and criticized, wields clarity like a torch. While others see risk, bankruptcy, and impossibility, his clarity is simple. Humanity must expand, must innovate, must survive beyond this planet. That clarity drives rockets into the sky and cars onto roads once thought impossible. You may agree or disagree with him, but you cannot deny the power of clarity when it burns so fiercely that the world bends around it. But clarity is not just for great names. It belongs to you. Picture a student buried under assignments, exams, the noise of peers, the pressure of expectation. Without clarity, they chase grades without meaning, approval without direction. But with clarity, with a watchtower that says, I want to heal people, I want to build, I want to create, I want to serve, suddenly the work transforms. Every late-night study session becomes a step toward purpose. Every obstacle becomes training, the same grind, but a different meaning because of clarity. Or imagine a parent working long hours, sacrificing, struggling to provide. Without clarity, life feels like endless exhaustion. But with the watchtower, I am building a future for my children. I am showing them resilience, teaching them love, laying stones of security. Suddenly the fatigue becomes endurance. Clarity turns sacrifice into honor. This is why gratitude fuels clarity. Gratitude lifts you up from the dust of what you lack and shows you what you already hold. From that higher view, you can see your true path more clearly. Gratitude is often the ladder that lets you climb the tower, But clarity is not automatic. It must be chosen, crafted, and protected. Every day the fog will rise, distractions, comparisons, fears. The world will try to drag you down into the mud, where you can only see inches ahead. You must climb deliberately, again and again, into your watchtower. Meditation, journaling, prayer, reflection. These are the steps that lift you higher. Without them, your life remains in the dust. With them, you see horizons. Clarity also demands sacrifice. When Jobs killed most of Apple's projects, he was not afraid to cut. When Mandela chose forgiveness over revenge, he cut away bitterness. When Ford refused to cater only to the rich, he cut away tradition. Clarity requires you to let go of the good in order to pursue the great. But perhaps the greatest enemy of clarity today is noise. Endless scrolling, endless advertising, endless opinions. The world sells you 1,000 dreams that are not yours. And so you must protect your watchtower fiercely. Because if you let the noise drown you, you will lay stones for someone else's wall. Imagine you are halfway through your life, standing on your wall, exhausted, only to realize the tower belongs to someone else's dream, the career your parents wanted, the lifestyle society praised, the illusion social media fed you. That is the tragedy of living without clarity. You worked, you suffered, you persisted, but for a wall that was never yours. The watchtower saves you from this tragedy. It allows you to say, this is my wall, this is my why, this is my path. Do not fear if your tower feels small at first. Even a short climb gives you a better view than staying in the mud. With time, with reflection, with honesty, your tower grows taller. You begin to see farther. And soon, like Disney, like Ford, like Mandela, your vision stretches beyond your own life. That is the ultimate power of clarity. It builds legacies. The Great Wall was not built for one man's lifetime. It was a vision carried by generations. You may not finish the wall of your dream in your lifetime, but clarity ensures you build in the right direction, so others can continue after you. What greater gift than this? To know your stones are not wasted. To know your persistence is not blind. To know your discipline is not slavery. To know that long after you are gone, the wall you built still stands. This is clarity. This is the watchtower. So climb. Climb every day. Rise above the dust, above the noise, above the chaos. And from the top, see your life as it truly is, and as it can be. Then descend with purpose and lay your stones with fire in your heart, because persistence guided by clarity becomes unstoppable. The Great Wall was not raised in quiet seasons of comfort. It was not built in gentle sunshine, with smooth stones and cheerful songs. No, it was carved through storms, through famines, through raids and rebellions. The wall was tested by fire, by the weight of human suffering, by setbacks so crushing that entire sections had to be torn down and built again. And this is the truth of life. Nothing great is born without setback. We like to imagine success as a steady climb, a staircase that rises neatly toward the summit. But real success is a battlefield of trial and error, of failure and recovery, of dreams burned and rebuilt from ashes. Setbacks are not signs that you are failing. They are fires that test whether your dream can survive the heat. Think of Thomas Edison, the man who lit the world. People remember his invention of the light bulb, but how many remember the thousands of failures before that moment? He tested filament after filament, experiment after experiment, until the world itself must have thought him mad. When asked about his failures, Edison simply said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is not a man broken by setbacks. That is a man tempered by fire. Andrew Carnegie, too, knew the fire. Born in poverty, working long, brutal hours in steel mills, his life was hardship pressed into his bones. He faced prejudice as a poor Scottish immigrant, yet he persisted. His setbacks became lessons. He studied industry, he studied people, and he built strength from sweat and blood. Carnegie's fortune did not come in spite of setbacks, but because of them. Each blow of hardship forged the steel of his persistence. Even Walt Disney, whose name now shines like magic across the world, walked through setback after setback. His first company collapsed. His characters were stolen. He was told repeatedly that his ideas were too big, too strange, too impossible. Bankruptcy pressed against him like chains, yet through every fire, Disney kept rebuilding. His setbacks were the furnace that purified his vision until it gleamed with unshakable clarity. And what about Tesla? A man of vision so far ahead of his time that the world called him mad, ridiculed, betrayed, robbed of credit. Tesla burned in the fire of constant rejection. He lived in poverty while others grew rich off his ideas, yet the fire did not erase his genius, it revealed it. He kept pushing, kept creating, kept giving his mind to a future no one else could yet see. This is the lesson. Setbacks are not endings. They are beginnings disguised as flames. But most people fear fire. They touch the heat of failure once and retreat forever. They face one rejection and build no more. They lay one stone, it crumbles, and they abandon the wall. They mistake the test for the verdict. You must not. You must learn to stand in the fire until it shapes you, because every great wall, every great dream is built from stones hardened by flame. Setbacks also strip away illusions. They reveal what truly matters. When your first plan fails, when the applause falls silent, when your pride is burned away, what remains? If your vision is real, it will rise again from the ashes. If it is false, it will stay buried, and you are free to seek a truer dream. This is the gift of setback. It refines, it clarifies, it strengthens. Look at Abraham Lincoln. He lost election after election. He sank into depression so deep that some feared for his life. He failed in business, failed in love, failed in politics. But each fire burned away weakness until only iron remained. When the Civil War came, when the nation split and blood soaked the soil, Lincoln was ready because his setbacks had already forged him in fire. And you too will face these fires. You will be rejected. You will be mocked. You will fall. You will fail. You will lose. This is not a curse. It is the furnace where persistence is purified. In today's world, the fire is often invisible. It is the humiliation of comparison, the sting of being overlooked, the grind of chasing dreams while others post highlight reels of their perfect lives. The fire burns quietly, in doubt, in envy, in frustration. Many give up in this silent fire, not realizing it is the very heat that could make them strong. Do not curse your setbacks. Welcome them. Say to yourself, this fire will not consume me. It will shape me. Because the great wall of your life will never be built in comfort. It will be built in heat, in storm, in resistance. Every time you rise from a setback, you lay a stone stronger than before. Every time you face rejection and keep moving, your wall rises higher. Every time you fail and rebuild, you prove to the world and to yourself that you are unstoppable. Setbacks are proof that you are in motion. No one who does nothing ever fails. Only the ones who build, who try, who dare, taste the fire. So if you are burning now, take heart. It means you are alive in the building. The great wall still stands because it was tested by fire, and so will you. The fire of setback spares no one. It comes for the dreamer, the builder, the artist, the leader, the parent, the student. It comes for those who dare to step beyond the ordinary. Look at Oprah Winfrey. Today she is a symbol of influence, a billionaire with a platform that touched millions. But her story was born in fire. She was told she wasn't fit for television. She was demoted, humiliated, criticized. Yet in every setback she found fuel. She took the pain of rejection and turned it into empathy, into a voice that connected with people on a level television had never seen. The fire did not consume her. It forged her. Or J.K. Rowling, who dreamed of a young wizard while she sat in poverty, rejected by publisher after publisher. Rejection letters stacked up like walls against her. She was on welfare, fighting depression, doubting herself. The easy path was to quit, to abandon the dream, to accept that the fire had consumed her hope. But she persisted. She rewrote. She submitted again. She believed when no one else did. Today, the Harry Potter series stands as one of the most successful in history. Her setbacks were the crucible that proved her story belonged to the world. And there is Michael Jordan. We remember the championships, the glory, the legend. But he remembers the fire being cut from his high school basketball team, the sting of being told he wasn't good enough. That setback became his fuel. He said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." His greatness was not born in the applause of victory, but in the fire of failure. The fire strips away comfort, but it also reveals hunger. Hunger is born when you are denied what you crave most. Hunger is the child of setback. And hunger, when directed with discipline and clarity, becomes unstoppable. Even entrepreneurs of today echo this truth. Look at Steve Jobs, fired from the very company he built. For many, that fire would have been final. But Jobs later admitted it was the best thing that happened to him. The setback freed him to innovate again, to rediscover creativity, to return stronger. Without that fire, Apple may never have risen to reshape the world. Or Elon Musk, mocked for his ambitions, bankrupted by his risks, sleeping on couches while his companies teetered on collapse. Rockets exploded, critics laughed, failure stalked him relentlessly. Yet each fire sharpened his resolve. Now Tesla dominates industries, SpaceX reaches toward the stars, not because he avoided setbacks, but because he endured them. But let us bring this down from legends to life itself. Consider the young graduate searching for work, facing rejection after rejection. The job market feels like a wall too high to climb. The fire of discouragement burns hotter with every no. Yet persistence through this fire builds resilience, builds resourcefulness. The one who learns to rise after 100 rejections becomes the one who thrives once the opportunity finally appears. Or the small business owner, watching savings dwindle, facing failures, mistakes, setbacks. Many close the doors forever. But some endure, some learn, some pivot, and in doing so they emerge stronger, with scars that become wisdom. Even in relationships, the fire burns, trust broken, hopes shattered, love lost. Many stop believing, stop trying, stop risking their hearts. But those who endure the fire with honesty, growth, and resilience emerge with deeper love, sharper wisdom, stronger bonds. The fire is not there to destroy them, but to refine what love truly means. This is why the fire is necessary. It prevents the weak from building walls that collapse at the first storm. It ensures that only those willing to endure, only those willing to persist, only those with dreams worth suffering for, are the ones whose walls rise high enough to stand the test of time. Imagine the Great Wall again, stretching across mountains. Every stone in that wall was a test. Every section was born from labor, from sweat, from resistance. Had it been easy, had there been no fire, the wall would not have lasted. Its strength lies not just in the stones, but in the sacrifices burned into them. So when the fire comes for you, when your plans fail, when your friends doubt you, when your strength falters, remember this: you are not being destroyed, you are being tested. You are not being punished, you are being forged. Do not flee the fire. Step into it, because greatness is fire tested. Every failure leaves a lesson. Every rejection leaves a scar that strengthens. Every collapse leaves a foundation on which to build again. The only true waste is quitting. If Edison had quit after his first 100 failures, the world would have remained in darkness longer. If Disney had quit after his first bankruptcy, millions of children would have grown up without the spark of imagination he gifted them. If Lincoln had quit after his first political defeat, the United States may never have been held together. The fire may feel endless, but it always passes, and what remains after it passes is the stronger version of you. So ask yourself, am I willing to be forged? Am I willing to walk through the fire so that my wall may rise, stone by stone, scar by scar, until it stands unshakable? Because if you are, then nothing, not failure, not rejection, not ridicule, not loss, can stop you. The fire may slow you, but it will never end you. The Great Wall teaches us persistence, but it also teaches us this: strength is born from suffering endured, not avoided. And in the same way, your greatness will not come from easy victories, but from setbacks survived. The fire is the price. Pay it willingly. But make no mistake, gratitude is not weakness. Gratitude is strength of the highest order. Gratitude is the lens that changes the way you see the wall, the way you carry the stones, the way you endure the fire. Because here is the truth: the way you see the struggle determines how far you will go through it. The Great Wall of China, stretching across mountains and valleys, did not look like a wonder to the men who carried the stones. To them, it looked like endless labor. It looked like calloused hands, aching backs, lives spent moving one stone after another. It looked like struggle, not glory. But today it is a marvel. People from every corner of the earth travel to see it, to walk upon it, to wonder at the persistence that created it. What once was pain has become beauty. What once was labor has become inspiration. And that is the power of gratitude and perspective. Gratitude says, this struggle I carry is not the end of me. One day it may become my monument. Your pain today, your hardship today, your fight today may become the very story that inspires someone tomorrow. But you only discover that when you learn to be grateful, not just for the victories, but for the battles themselves. Walt Disney knew this. He faced a crushing setback early in his career. He had created a character named Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. It was his pride, his breakthrough. But then, through betrayal and business maneuvering, he lost Oswald. Stripped of rights, stripped of ownership, stripped of the very character he thought would carry his career. Many would have drowned in bitterness. Many would have quit, cursing the cruelty of life. But Disney did not. Instead of wallowing, he looked forward with gratitude, not for the loss itself, but for the lesson hidden inside it. He was grateful to have learned the importance of ownership, grateful to understand that true creativity is never stolen, grateful that the end of Oswald gave birth to something even greater. Out of that heartbreak, out of that gratitude came Mickey Mouse, a character who would not just succeed, but would become a global symbol of joy. Disney's gratitude shifted his perspective. What looked like a cruel theft became the birthplace of a dream far larger than the one he lost. And so it is with your life. The very thing you curse today, the very trial you wish had never come, may be the seed of your greatest future. But only if you choose gratitude. Gratitude turns pain into fuel. Gratitude transforms bitterness into wisdom. Gratitude makes the wall a monument, not a prison. Think of Abraham Lincoln. He could have cursed his endless defeats. He could have despised the years of failure. But instead, he grew grateful for them. He saw in those setbacks a sharpening of his character, a lesson in humility, a training ground for leadership. Without those bitter years, he would not have been prepared to lead a nation through its darkest hour. Or Thomas Edison, who could have cursed every failed experiment, every broken bulb, but he didn't. He saw each failure as one step closer to success, grateful for the knowledge gained even in defeat. Gratitude gave him energy when others would have surrendered. Henry Ford faced bankruptcy 5 times before the success of the Model T. 5 times he could have drowned in resentment. 5 times he could have cursed fate. But gratitude gave him a different lens. He said, in essence, I have learned, I have grown, I will build again. And because of that, he changed the way the world moves. Gratitude is not just for legends. It is for you. Maybe you have been rejected by someone you loved. Gratitude says, now I know what I deserve. Now I know how strong I can be. Now I have space for someone who will truly value me. Maybe you have failed in business or work. Gratitude says, now I know what not to do. Now I have wisdom to carry forward. Now I am tougher than before. Maybe life has delayed your dream. Gratitude says, this delay is not denial. This waiting season is preparing me, shaping me, teaching me patience, deepening my hunger. When you shift into gratitude, you take control of the narrative. You stop being a victim of the wall, and you become the builder of it. You stop seeing struggle as punishment, and you begin to see it as preparation. Even in modern times, this truth shines. Consider someone like Steve Jobs. After being fired from Apple, a humiliation that could have poisoned him, he later admitted it was the best thing that ever happened to him. Gratitude transformed his perspective. Instead of carrying bitterness, he carried thankfulness for the freedom to innovate again. That gratitude led him to create Pixar, Next, and ultimately return to Apple stronger than ever. Or Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years. He could have walked out bitter, filled with hate, but he chose gratitude, grateful for the time to think, to sharpen his resolve, to envision a better South Africa. His gratitude gave him perspective, and his perspective gave him the ability to lead a nation toward reconciliation instead of revenge. Gratitude is not about ignoring pain. It is about redefining it. It is about saying, this fire is hot, but I am thankful because it is shaping me. This wall is heavy, but I am thankful because it is making me stronger. This delay is long, but I am thankful because it is preparing me for something I cannot yet see. Perspective changes everything. Think of a man walking along the Great Wall centuries ago. To him it was stone after stone, dust in his eyes, exhaustion in his bones. But to you today it is wonder. The same work, the same wall, but perspective changes the meaning. Gratitude works the same way in life. Your struggle today may feel endless, meaningless, unfair. But one day, you may look back and see it as the very thing that gave you your strength, your wisdom, your story. What now feels like a burden may one day be your monument. The wall stands because men endured. Your life will stand because you endure with gratitude. So here is the challenge. When you face your next setback, your next delay, your next heartbreak, do not curse it. Ask, what can I be grateful for in this? What perspective can I choose that will give me strength, not weakness? Because gratitude turns scars into stories. Gratitude turns obstacles into opportunities. Gratitude turns pain into purpose. And if you learn to live this way, you will not only build your wall, you will inspire others to build theirs. Your gratitude will echo through generations, the way the Great Wall echoes across mountains. So give thanks even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. For one day, your gratitude will turn today's struggle into tomorrow's wonder. The Great Wall stands not only as a structure of stone, but as a monument of time. Centuries have passed, empires have risen and fallen, yet the wall remains. The hands that laid the stones are long turned to dust. The voices that commanded have faded into silence. The sweat and blood that built it has been absorbed into the earth. But the wall endures. That is legacy. Legacy is what remains when the builder is gone. Legacy is persistence outliving the person who persisted. Legacy is the echo of your discipline, the shadow of your gratitude, the fruit of your labor ripening in fields you will never walk. The builders of the Great Wall knew this. They knew they would never see it finished. They knew their hands would grow weak, their days would pass, their children's children would still be building. And yet they built. They built because they understood that greatness is not measured in the span of a single life but in the story it writes for generations. So it is with you. The wall you build is not only for you. Your persistence, your choices, your discipline, they echo into the future. They shape your children, your community, your nation. Your legacy is not in what you achieve for yourself but in what you set in motion for others. Think of Andrew Carnegie. Born into poverty, working in steel mills as a boy, enduring the grind of labor most would never escape. Yet through persistence and vision, he rose to become one of the most powerful industrialists in history. But his true legacy was not just steel. His true legacy was the libraries he built, the schools he funded, the opportunities he created for millions long after his death. His wall was not simply wealth. It was access, education, and inspiration. Or think of Nikola Tesla. He died poor, ridiculed, misunderstood. In his lifetime, he did not receive the rewards his brilliance deserved. But his legacy, the electricity in your home, the wireless technologies that connect the world, the innovations that power modern civilization. Tesla's wall was not finished in his lifetime. But today, we walk upon it. Abraham Lincoln, too, understood legacy. He knew his presidency would cost him dearly. He knew his persistence in the face of division would demand sacrifice. But he pressed on, not for himself, but for the generations to come. His Emancipation Proclamation, his defense of unity, his vision of liberty, these were stones he laid, knowing he might never live to see the full monument. And indeed he did not. But the wall of freedom he helped build continues to rise, long after his voice was silenced. Legacy is not about fame. Legacy is about impact. Fame fades, statues crumble, but the influence of a life lived with purpose endures in ways unseen. Think of a teacher who plants seeds in the hearts of children. She may never be remembered by history. Her name may never appear in books, but the lessons she gave, the encouragement she offered, the discipline she instilled, those stones may rise into walls of greatness in her students' lives, walls that reach far beyond her own. That is legacy. Or a parent who works tirelessly, unnoticed, uncelebrated to provide. The hours of labor, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, those are stones too. The child grows, stands taller, builds higher because of that foundation. That is legacy. The Great Wall whispers a truth across centuries. The work you do today can outlive you. The stones you lay with persistence can become the path others walk tomorrow. So the question becomes, what wall are you building? What legacy are you leaving? When your hands are dust, when your name is forgotten, will the stones you laid still stand? Will they still give strength, shelter, inspiration? This is why persistence matters. Not because it gives you rewards in the moment, but because it carves something timeless. Consider Walt Disney again. He did not live to see the opening of Walt Disney World in Florida, the grandest of his dreams. But his legacy carried it forward, because he built not just for himself but for others. His vision was greater than his lifetime. Today, families from across the world gather in a place he once only imagined. That is legacy. Steve Jobs, too, left his mark not just in devices but in the philosophy he instilled in Apple, to think differently, to push boundaries, to marry art with technology. Though he is gone, the culture he built continues to innovate, to inspire, to shape how billions live and create. That is legacy. And so it is with you. Do not think of your life only in terms of what you will see. Think of it in terms of what you will set in motion. Plant trees you will never sit under. Lay stones you will never walk upon. Build walls whose shadow will protect people you will never meet. The Great Wall was not built in one lifetime. Your wall will not be either. Your legacy is not complete in your days. It will be measured in generations. This is why gratitude matters. This is why discipline matters. This is why persistence matters. Because each choice you make is a stone. Each stone becomes part of the wall, and long after you are gone, the wall remains. So build wisely, build with vision, build with love, with courage, with faith. For one day your wall will tell your story. One day your wall will whisper to those who come after. This is what persistence looks like. This is what discipline feels like. This is what gratitude can create. The Great Wall teaches us this. The greatest achievements are not measured in years, but in legacies. And if you live with that in your heart, you will no longer fear the struggle, no longer resent the hardship. You will carry your stones with honor, knowing that you are building something that will last. Legacy is not just what you leave behind when you are gone. It is what you build daily while you are alive. Every choice is a brick, every sacrifice a stone, every act of discipline, another layer in the wall. Think of Nelson Mandela. For 27 years, he sat in a prison cell. His body weakened, his freedom stolen, his life seemingly wasted. But Mandela understood something profound. His struggle was bigger than himself. His persistence was not for his own comfort, but for a legacy of freedom. And when he emerged, older but unbroken, he carried that legacy into leadership. Today, his name echoes as a symbol of justice, resilience, and forgiveness. The wall he built was not for him, but for a nation, for a world hungry for hope. Malala Yousafzai, too, carries this truth. As a young girl, she was shot simply for demanding education. Many would have given up, silenced by fear. But Malala turned her wound into a weapon, her scar into a story. Today, her voice speaks for millions of girls denied education. Her legacy is still being written, stone by stone in classrooms around the world. And Elon Musk, misunderstood, ridiculed, told his visions were impossible. Rockets exploded, companies nearly collapsed, debts mounted. But Musk persisted not for quick profit, but for a legacy, to push humanity beyond Earth, to pioneer energy that could outlast this generation. Whether one admires him or not, the fact remains, he is building a wall that will outlive him, a vision that stretches into the stars. But legacy is not just for world leaders, inventors, or visionaries. Legacy belongs to the ordinary as much as the extraordinary. Picture a father who wakes before dawn, working 2 jobs to provide for his children. He may not see his name etched in history, but his children will stand taller because of the stones he laid. That is legacy. Picture a mother who sacrifices her own dreams so her children may dream bigger. She may not see the applause of crowds, but her wall will rise in the lives of those she nurtures. That is legacy. Picture the friend who encourages you when you want to give up, the mentor who gives wisdom when you are lost, the neighbor who lends a hand in your struggle. Their walls may not stretch for miles, but they stretch into hearts. That is legacy. The Great Wall reminds us